Welcome to the You Can Be Unstoppable podcast. My name is Evelina, your host and certified hypnotherapist. In this podcast, I will share with you how to tap into the power of your subconscious mind. I intend to share with you how learning how to use the power of your subconscious mind can help you to create a successful and abundant life with ease, how to connect with yourself while fostering a healthy relationship with your body and mind. Tapping into the power of the subconscious mind will help you to learn how to manage your emotions, become more resilient and present in all of your relationships. Self-love and self-worth are the keys to the kingdom of success and abundance, to happy and healthy life on your terms. Hey, welcome everyone to another episode of You Can Be Unstoppable. And today I have an amazing guest for you, Liz Keith. Is a certified international life, purpose and spirituality coach. She lives in beautiful South Sussex in England, for those who you don't know. Liz is a lifelong learner, and I know something about that one. Mindfulness teacher, sound healer, and world traveler who loves nature, and she loves working with women to recover their power, their life purpose, and create a soul-led lives. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your introduction, and I'm really pleased to be here. Very happy.
Fantastic. So tell me, Liz, what has led you to decide to do what you do, and why do you work with women specifically?
Yes, what led me to it, quite a few years ago, I was a therapist, counsellor and therapist, and I did that for 10 years, and I really felt that was a really good profession for me to be in at that time. I really felt called to that, and it was very rewarding. And then I had, in 2015, I had a life shock, a cancer diagnosis, and then took some time out and was really kind of reflecting on what I wanted to do. And that's what led me, it was that really, which was one of my most significant spiritual awakenings, and then led me into wanting to be a soul purpose coach. And the women aspect, I think, because I can really relate to that journey, women, and also people who identify as women, that sense of I've, been through many stages of life, the different rites of passage. And I really love to help women to connect and really get clear on what they want from their lives.
I love this. I really resonate with what you're saying because I love working with women. I think we need that empowerment and that push to actually say my needs are just as important as everyone else's needs. Because what I see, and you tell me if you agree with me or not, very often women lie to themselves in terms of how they show up in lives for themselves and for others. They say, oh, it's okay, I don't need that matter. My needs don't matter that much. I want to look after the family. We are defined by how good of a mother, daughter, sister, wife, mother, you name it, we are. We are being programmed from little girls how we should show up in the relationship. And is that sacrifice part of this, that it's the greater good, is the family unit over us, it's the husband over us, the kids over us, if you know what I mean. And I think some women think that it's okay like this, where deep inside they feel that something is missing, that something is off, but they can't put the finger on it.
Yes, I love the way you said that. And as you were saying it, some of the words that came up were a sense of sometimes this incongruence between what women really want and what they feel that they should want.
That's the word,
And
should, is it?
yeah, stop shoulding yourself. I heard somebody say that in a podcast a while back, and I loved it, because that word, when we hear ourselves saying that a lot, it's really an indicator that we're not really in alignment in that area. So I couldn't agree more. I think there's a big part of patriarchy that's been with us a few thousand years now, and then it's on its way out, which obviously, hopefully, which obviously affects men and women.
Yep.
And for women, I think it's really about that, what you've been talking about, which is being able to advocate for their needs, for our needs. What do I really want? And I think, and I've noticed with my clients, some of the statements that come up are, oh, it's selfish, or I haven't got enough time, or, oh, putting everybody else's needs first, as you said. And although we don't want to be completely the other way and disregard everybody, I'm a true believer in balance in all things. Yet we do need to find a way to advocate for our needs, to get our needs met. And I can say a little bit more about, if you'd like, why I think that's so important.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, because it's all this shoulding. It's almost like we're saying we are wrong because I should be doing this, and I should be this mother, and I should be, and we're doing all this shoulding, but those shoulding comes from the things we think someone else wants us to be. It's the mother, grandmother were telling us from, since we were little girl, that we should be behaving this way. Good girls don't behave this way. So it's all of that play part, whether we are aware or not. And please do expand on it.
Yeah, exactly. I just think that for a lot of women, it's that kind of being in that incongruence of what they really want and what they're told that, or feel that society, and, it stems from, childhood, schooling, the wider society. I mean, gosh, the amount of advertising and all the rest of it, all of these things impact us. And in the world of technology, which can be, of course, wonderful, and that's how we're connecting today, which is great, there's also the flip side of that. And so I think that we need to reframe selfishness. It's so loaded, that word. It's, when you hear it, you just, I don't know, I just don't like it. And I think it kind of, I think it's looking at it in a different way. And for some women, whatever point they're at, it might be difficult to think that they just want to put themselves forward and do what they want to do. And yeah, I think we can look at it in different ways. One is that we really deserve it. As women, we do need to embody our personal power and own that. And we deserve to live a life that we want to lead and that is in alignment with our soul's essence. Equally, we are, part of a society, and we are all interconnected, both, I believe, spiritually and in this physical world. And so if we can look at it like this, that when we are putting our needs first and we're looking after ourselves, that we can give from the overflow, and that also we are better to be around. And if you are a mother or a carer or whatever your roles or connections are, and we all have hopefully friends and family, that you are able to be in a higher vibration and get your own needs met whilst being in a positive light and vibration for others. So if we can see it as a collective, sometimes that's easier for some people to take on board, if that makes sense.
And I think, a few episodes ago, I've had an amazing guest, and she talked about how being selfish, which is a very loaded word, how being selfish to be selfless. And I think we put a lot of meaning, we attach a lot of meaning and interpretation to words. Because selfless to me is actually if I look after myself, my mental health, my energy, my body, my mind, I am there a much better service. I can provide a better service to my family, to my clients, as if I were, depleted. I wasn't looking after myself. I wasn't getting the amount of sleep that I need. I was doing all the things, and nothing were for us women and high achievers and women who want to build a business, they have a business and career. That's quite relevant. We do all the things, and then we expect top performance from our body and from our mind and to be, creative and productive and all the things when actually we haven't given ourselves the fuel, all the goodness that we need in the first place in order to serve. So I think being selfish in terms of my cup is full, I can then provide a much better service. Is a much better way to look at it than just being selfish. Oh, my needs are better than yours. It's not all about that.
No.
At all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really think it's unsustainable as well if we don't have our needs, if we don't advocate for our needs, have our, some self-care and self-love in place, then, it's just not sustainable. And then where does it lead us? Completely agree.
So what is a powerful way of living with joy as a core value? Because I think we forget how to live a joyful life. We get into the adulthood and it's almost like we get the memo.
Yeah.
Now, you're an adult now, you don't get to live in joy.
Yeah. Well, I believe that, or I know actually, that joy is intrinsically linked to our soul's purpose, because it's everything that we connect with at a deep soul level. The inner work is what reflects on the outer work. So if we are depleted of joy, if we are not in contact with that, then we are going to be manifesting something that, because we're always manifesting, whether we intend to or not. And so when we're really in touch with our joy, we are really in touch with and living more of our purpose, because it raises our vibration. We can more clearly feel and see what it is we want from our lives going forward. So I think joy as a core value and also as an emotion is absolutely imperative to living being in touch with that divinity within, as I see it.
So what would you say to all the women out there who say, I don't have the time to enjoy my life. I've got the kids to look after. I need to go to work. I've got a business. So joy doesn't seem to be the priority. What would you say to them? Why joy should be a priority in order to live a soulful life?
Well, I would say that it's ultimately a decision. We can't lead or tell anybody to do something they don't want to, but I would flag up the importance of it, some of which we've already covered. If we don't, then how are you around? If you're worried about, raising your children or being a good work colleague or daughter or whatever, or friend, if we don't, if we're not in touch with that joy, which is connected, I think, to, fun and enjoyment, then how are we going to be in these relationships? We might spend more time with some of these people, but are we going to be giving value? Are we going to be, in a good example to our children? Or, we want to really be modeling that.
Exactly. And as I say, it's a choice. And I think that's what people don't get. We get to choose how we show up for ourselves. We get to choose if we want to invite joy or we want to worry. And I like what you said. Think about being yourself as a role model. How do you model how life can be to your children? Because going back to what we said earlier, how we are today, it's because of what was modeled to us from the day we were born. And I think people kind of dismiss this too easily. They don't really understand the power of everything that we observe, everything that we hear. To give you an example, we all went through this global thing recently. And my mom said to me that she started having dreams that she's going to die. And I said to her, please, for the love of God, stop watching the news. And she said, oh, but I don't believe in it. And I'm like, I don't really care. You are watching it time and time again, day in and day out. Sometimes you pay more attention, sometimes less. But your subconscious mind takes in everything that you hear, read, observe, everything that you interact with. Whether you consciously think that you believe it or not, or whatever your conscious choice about what you want to think about it. And you know what? She stopped having the dreams. So it's so vital. Yeah, it's all it took is just take a little bit away from the external environment and watching the news and being so involved, energetically and emotionally involved in what was going on. So I think, when we choose not to invite joy into our lives, we're choosing to invite worry or overthinking or whatever that is for you. And having said all of this, how important do you think it is to become aware, to work on it, to actively seek the awareness about your programming, so your beliefs, your stories, your thoughts, habits, everything that shapes your identity, who you are, on your journey to get unstuck?
Yeah, very important. I mean, first and foremost, I see stuck as, stagnant. And when we think of stagnant, it's just that perpetual just feeling not being able to move. But as we know that everything is impermanent, and if we are stuck, we're not going to stay there all the time. It's likely actually, or there's the danger that actually things get a bit worse rather than better. So getting unstuck is really important, and becoming conscious of our program is absolutely vital, because we're all susceptible to programming. I mean, they call it on the television programs. We, of course, when we're very young, from 0 to 7, we are extremely, I believe we're just in the theta brainwave at that point in life. And so we're just like sponges, and we learn a lot, and a lot stays with us. But going forward, we do have the ability to change that through, neuroplasticity. And of course, what fires together wires together. But the opposite is also true, that if we don't feed something, we don't feed our programming, but we choose something else, remembering that it's a process and takes time, then those kind of neuro pathways get pruned as well. So being aware is absolutely key, because once we become more aware of our programming, we, through mindfulness, by, reflection, just by being in the moment, then we can see the patterns that arise of our programming. And then that is an absolute gift, because once we have that awareness, that's when we can do something about it.
And I think without being aware, we cannot change. We cannot change something we are not aware of. So that absolutely comes first. We need to know this is the pattern, the habit, the story in the first place.
Yes.
Before we can do something about this. And I see quite often with people that even with hypnosis, they think this is this magic pill that, I can snap my fingers and things will change for them. Yes, they will change quicker for them, but they still need to do the work. They still need to practice their awareness, observe the thoughts, because we are where our attention is. And if we choose to stay in water, overthinking, what if, and anxiety or whatever that is going on for you, this is where our attention is.
Yes.
And that's what our mind will tend to attract into us. So Do you think as women, do we know how to be mindful and observe our inner dialogue, that inner head chatter, that inner child, pretty much, that inner sense of who we are that just goes, just keeps going without our awareness? Because it really creates our reality, whether we are aware of it or not. Because, like you said earlier, we are attracting, we
Yes.
manifesting all the time, whether we are aware of it or not, or whether it's what we want or not. It's usually because of that inner dialogue here, those inner, most intimate thoughts and stories that we have. Most often we are not aware they are there. They're just there running in the background.
Yeah, the
Do you
background.
know?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
absolutely agree. And I think that's why being in the moment, being still, taking time for some practices, be it meditation or whatever that you feel connected to, is so important, because then we will notice those patterns. And it's it's so liberating to know that and acknowledge that our thoughts are just thoughts. They're not reality. Most of our thoughts, some are, facts, but a lot of our thoughts are just as a result of programming or what we've learned or what we've chosen to believe in. So when we begin to acknowledge that actually our thoughts are just thoughts, and we can allow them in some ways to just pass across our mind like clouds. Some are more sticky than others. That's, fair enough. And we are a work in progress. Then it's just quite liberating, because as I understand it, we have like about, what is it, something like 70 to 90,000 words, thoughts a day, something like that. And the vast majority are on repeat from the programming. So if we believe everything, then that's what's going to lead us our path. But if we can begin to create a sense of the observer self, and what I mean by that is that we can kind of be less enmeshed and observe it, then we can see those patterns and make better choices. And I think the last thing I say about that is it's so important that when we begin to do this, that one, we tune into when we have certain thoughts, how do we feel? Because that's a really good indicator. And if it's a thought that's making us feel bad, well, then guess what? It's not a good thing to be dwelling on. Moving towards more higher vibrational thoughts. And another piece there, I think, is whilst we're in this process of working to disabling, if you like, some of the programming, is to bring really loving attitudes towards ourselves, because we can be harsh. Oh, I can't do this. I can't meditate. Oh, I'm always thinking this. And it's about bringing that compassion and kindness towards ourselves as we would a friend.
Which is all a story, I cannot meditate, whatever.
Yeah.
That's a story.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
that is true. And there's this quote that I want to bring here, is, which I love, which summarizes what you just said so beautifully. Because we examine all the beliefs except those that we truly believe, and those we never think to question. Because
Yeah.
just because we believe something, it doesn't mean it's a truth. It's just a thought repeated time and time and time again. And we started to believe it as true. Just because it's a belief, it doesn't mean that it's true. It's true to you because you think it's true. It doesn't mean that it's true, because sometimes it's based upon false premise, a false interpretation, a meaning that we give it to something as children. It made sense then when we were 5 or 8. Holding on to that story, to that belief, causes us suffering, because maybe we created a belief that we need to be perfect and achieve in order to be worthy, which is a total BS as far as I'm concerned, because you are worthy just because you are alive, you're here, breathing, living. That's all you need to feel worthy and enough. But we create those beliefs, we hold on to those stories for dear life sometimes. Like, why? But that's the habit, is it? It's just
Yeah.
brain
It's the
creates.
known.
Yeah, it's the known. So there's like so much that we could bring into the conversation in so many different directions, and I'm sure you teach a lot of this to your clients, and I speak a lot of that with my clients. as part of the coaching and hypnosis. And something that you said earlier that I think is worth to kind of circle back, because this concept has been presented to me a while back by my mentor, and it took me a while to really understand and grasp the true meaning of it. And I want to see what is your definition. What do you specifically mean when you refer to personal power?
Okay, good question. Thank you for asking. For me, it's about, first and foremost, about dropping into our heart, dropping into who we are at soul level. Yeah. So really connecting with that. And then so by doing so, we can become clear of our values, who we are. And when I say soul essence, what I mean by that is throughout our lives, we express our soul and our purpose in many different ways. But our essence is our essence, right? Is who we are. And there are common threads that run through our lives. So it's really about, know thyself, really get in tune with that, because so I'm not meaning it as in this kind of bravado. In fact, the opposite. It's not bravado. It's not this kind of armored self. It's quite the opposite. It's being in that centered place of becoming more clear of what you want, who you are, and then being boundaried around that and being clear. I mean, you said something about this earlier, where you were saying about everything we let into our psyche, our thoughts, our feelings, what we watch on TV, how we allow people to speak to us. And I see that, I mean, it's not a definition, but that's how I see personal power. It's our truth.
Well, you know what I like to say when I try to explain to clients what that means is like, it's not to give your inner peace to what someone says, what someone may think about you, because I think that's when we lose our personal power, where we feel angry because someone said something, or we feel frustrated because of what's going on in the economy. It's things we cannot control. Yes, it's happening. Yes, it's probably no good. But getting angry, frustrated, irritated, emotionally involved is not going to change anything, but it will affect you. And your power to create, to manifest, to be that soulful being that you can be.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing is worth your inner peace.
No. But sometimes we give that away so easily.
Yeah.
People get so triggered so easily at times.
We do. And I think for me, a really important piece within this is forgiving ourselves for going down that road. I don't know if you're familiar with the poem, I think it's by Portia Nelson, Autobiography in 5 Chapters. Do you know that one?
Don't think I am.
I mean, I won't be able to quote it all, but she's talking about really, walking down a sidewalk, it's an Americanism, and you fall in the hole, and then you go again and you fall down the hole, and it's your fault this time because you knew it was there. And then the next time you see it there and you move around it. And then finally it gets to the stage where you walk down another street. And it's a really powerful, I haven't got it here to read, but it is really powerful, because to me it speaks to that we are, I'm saying it a lot because I know it's been a huge part of my journey. Of giving myself a hard time, of not always, falling into those traps, falling down that hole in the sidewalk. And I think if we can bring these this is where I get from the mindfulness, is if we can bring these mindful attitudes of kindness, compassion, trust, and all of these towards ourselves, so we're not kind of beating ourselves up metaphorically, then we're more likely to want to engage in this process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's so powerful what you said, because our mind does literally what we tell it to. So if we beat ourselves up, we should have you should know better. Why did you do this again?
Yeah.
You fell into the same trap. So basically, we're telling ourselves that we're not good enough, that we can't learn, that whatever the interpretation of that is for you.
Yeah.
So, but if we're being kind to ourselves, it's like, well, okay, I've messed up again. That's okay. I will do the next time better. And praise ourselves. I think we don't do that nearly enough, like nearly enough. We dismiss those little things because we're looking for the big wins. But the thing is, they hardly ever happen. And all those little wins will add up to the big one.
Totally. Baby steps.
Absolutely. And when we, see the benefits of everything that we do, when we kind of give ourselves a pat on the back, so to speak, even for the smallest things, because it is small because we interpret it as small. Because what's small and what's big, because what's small for me, it may be absolutely massive for someone else. Again, that's just, very subjective. So I like to say it's a win. That's it. It's a win. It doesn't matter how big or small it is. But we tend to dismiss them. So not the way to go to, because those little wins, it signals to the brain. It's like, oh, this is how we now are. This is what we like. This is what we celebrate. She wants more of this. If you don't, the brain's like, oh, I guess that wasn't such a big deal. I guess we're not going to be doing that again. I don't know, the brain doesn't speak like that. I like to explain it that way. It just makes more sense to me when I kind of picture in that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, totally makes sense. And I used to before, I used to a lot less now. I don't do it so much now, but I used to be in a place where I'd have something I was working towards, even something like a dissertation or something, and achieve it and go, okay, next. And it's like, no, celebrate. And I'm really big, and I'm sure you are with your clients, I'm really big on celebrating the wins, really allowing space to acknowledge what has been achieved, that the aha moments. That is a massive thing, having an aha moment about something. And just kind of touching back on the joy piece here, it just came to me around that sense of cultivating that through gratitude. It doesn't come on its own. We need to cultivate these things. And if it's like a plant in the garden. I mean, I love gardening. If you put a seed in the ground or a seedling and you leave it on its own, then it's highly likely it's not going to come to much. But if we cultivate that, we water it, we give it, put it in the sun, all the things, it's going to grow. And that is how a growth mindset is, I believe, moving away from the programming to
yeah. And that comes to what you said earlier. I mean, we're gonna, I think, circle back and back forth, but it's only now moment. And when we stop to celebrate, we are worthy and enough right now. But it's like if we constantly chase something, then you're never good enough. You're never worthy to be in joy right now. If you know what I mean, like chasing the next thing. It's like, well, you're never good enough because that just wasn't good enough. You just didn't even stop to celebrate. You're like off to the next thing, off to the next. So important. So I just got one more question to you. It's a question that I ask all my guests because I love to see what they are going to say, and I always love the replies. This podcast is titled "You Can Be Unstoppable" because I wholeheartedly believe you can if you choose to. And I would like to hear what are your 3 tips to become unstoppable.
Thank you. First and foremost, I want to say that unstoppable, it's that balance again, isn't it? It's yes, we could be unstoppable and we can achieve incredible things because, for my belief, we are part of the divine. We are part of, the universe experiencing itself. And if we can get in touch with that, even a little bit, then we can feel the worthiness of the interconnectedness. And being unstoppable doesn't mean that we're just constantly go, go, go. That we are cyclical beings. We're like the seasons, we have internal weather patterns, and it's tuning into that. And I really feel that the first one is know thyself. It's back to kind of where we started about, this sense of we are divine, we are inherently worthy, and really getting clear on what it is that you want from your beautiful and precious life. So if we're energetically operating from that soul purpose, that soul, that authentic soul-studded purpose, we can be unstoppable. So that's the one thing there. And love yourself enough to do what what you're here to do. So that's the balance there, showing up for yourself consistently. And yet that doesn't always mean hustle. It's not like drive, strive, hustle. Sometimes it's a big action, as you were saying earlier. Other times it's a small, and sometimes it's a rest. And then the final one is that, rest, play, and self-nourishment. You were saying earlier about some people not feeling that as we get, come out of childhood, we don't give space for that. I do, actually. I love play. It's a big part of my life, but it hasn't always been. And I think just engaging with that energy of play, self-care, looking after your body, because if we don't look after body, we don't have anything actually in this 3D reality. Without our bodies, we don't have anything to take us through. And so, not allowing anything to come ahead of that. And I'm a big believer of balance in all things. And when we give to ourselves, we then in turn, it overflows and pours to others. And just to know, I say quite a lot there, but just to finish by saying, whilst we get in touch with those 3 areas, we can really be assured that we are meant for more, and that we can do that and be there and give.
I love that, because like you say, without our bodies, if we don't have health is wealth. Simply
Yes.
as that. I mean, if we don't have the health, not amount of money in this world can change that. So absolutely love this. You taking care of your body, mind, and soul, because I think they're interlinked, interconnected. If one doesn't work properly, the other will suffer as well. I really believe in this. Mm-hmm. And the second piece I also love, because it was something actually in my episode today that came up. I talked about so many people don't love themselves. Mm-hmm. But they don't even notice, they don't even admit this to themselves. But, if you engage in people pleasing, if you beat yourself with a long stick, if you procrastinate, if you sabotage yourself, that's all signs of self-love problems. Because if you really truly loved yourself, you wouldn't people please. You would say no when you think you want to say no. You wouldn't procrastinate on the things that are beneficial to you. That piece, loving yourself, that self, it's a fundamental piece. Everything in your life.
Absolutely. And when, for some people who are listening, it might feel like, very insurmountable. I don't feel like that. It's just starting small with a seed, just doing one little thing. That cultivation, it will grow, rather than thinking I've got to do something grand. And yes, self-love, self-care is the usual suspects of, the mindfulness, the being in nature, the, maybe spa days, but it's also some of the things you mentioned, doing your tax return on time so you don't get stressed, because then we end up in fight flight, in that energy of that negative energy. So it's a broader area than just, bubble baths. It's much deeper than that. Mm-hmm. Just starting small.
And I think you would agree with me, sometimes having those big steps, because I think this is like human nature. We want to go and make it big. But actually, our brain is much more likely to resist that big change than a small one. Because if it's a huge jump from loving yourself, not loving yourself, really disliking yourself, really not looking after yourself, and you suddenly want to make this big grand gesture, your brain is like, who do you think you're kidding? It's like, whoa.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes actually those tiny steps have much more impact and long-term effect, and it will stick than this big and grand gesture. So just bear this in mind, listeners, that sometimes those big steps are not what you want to do.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that it's building. I was listening a while ago, if I may briefly say, to a conversation where the late great Maya Angelou, who was talking about this, and she said that I remember that she was in a position where she asked somebody to leave her house because of their behaviour, of what they'd said. And it was a conversation with her and Oprah Winfrey. And Oprah said, I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, how did she do that? You know, it's such a brave thing to do, to ask somebody to leave, you know, for something they said, which was, I don't know, off colour. And she said, yes, but I didn't start off like that. I started off with the smaller things and I built up to that point, to that courage. Again, it's all about cultivation. So I totally agree with you. Yeah, it's the baby steps every day.
Absolutely. And before, I'll let you go, can you tell listeners where they can find you?
Yes, I'm on Instagram at liz.keats, Keates. I'm on Facebook, which I have a Facebook group called Meant for More with Liz Keats. And my website is lizkeats.com. So same spelling, Keates. That's the main places that you can find me. I do coaching, I do workshops, I do sound, mindfulness. Yeah.
And is there any parting thoughts that you would like to share with the audience?
Just to get to cultivate, I keep saying that, get to a place where you love yourself, even if it's just a little bit enough to put yourself forward. You are meant for more, you are worthy, and you deserve to give yourself and those around you this gift of your purpose.
Beautiful. Well, thank you very much for being here.
Absolutely love the conversation.
So thank you very much for being here, and I see everyone next week.
Thank you for listening. If you found value in this podcast, I would like to ask you to leave a positive review explaining how this episode helped you to improve your life. I ask you to do this because this will help other people to improve their lives as well. Share and spread the love all around you. Raise your vibrations to improve your life. If you would like more transformational content like this, connect with me on Instagram. You can find a link in the description of this podcast, and I'll see you over in the next episode.